And then I'm like, okay, guys, let me take time off, and I'm gonna go read the article. So the first time I found out the whole, not even the true logistics of the Ultimate Fighter, fans tell me about it. So I go to the website and I'm reading it. It goes, I'm reading it. I'm like, okay, so they're gonna, fight, and the winner gets. And I was like, and I'm like, well, what does that leave with the guys who are under contract? And then I'm like, what does that do with this person, this is, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so does that mean the guys who get to who are in the UFC get to fight there or whatever? So I didn't know the whole logistics of it. That was like somebody coming to me like, hey, dude, your wife's pregnant? I'm like, what the fuck you mean my wife is pregnant? What? So that's how it came off, to where people were like, I think the UFC, and I think a lot of people ran with it, like, oh my God, Demetrious Johnson shat all over it. And I was like, dude, that was my last opinion. Like, the UFC didn't tell me about this. Like, I had no idea. That's when Ariel Wani texts me and goes, dude, top 24, what do you think about it? And I was like, what about it? I have no idea about it. And so a lot of times now when I get my news about stuff, like with RDA taking on Eddie Alvarez, they know he was fighting him till like, I think 2 days ago. And I was like, oh, they're fighting? I was like, it's on Fight Pass? Yeah, I didn't even know that. So, but yeah.
Do you think it's like offensive?
No, I don't think it's offensive.
Because some people kind of figure, well, how could a newbie be ready to challenge for the title?
Like I said on my live stream, the UFC does what they do, and I do what I do. And I just take care of Demetrious Johnson, the UFC takes care of themselves. I mean, that's nothing against the UFC. It's nothing against what they want to do and plan. The UFC is a well-oiled machine. They do an amazing job at advertising and making stars. And, all I can do is make sure Demetrious Johnson does the best he can on fight night and go out there and fight and win his fights. So.
People like to ask about beating out the division and everything, and so you were talking about who's the next most famous person, and obviously then the super fight idea comes up. So I know you've talked about that before. Is there any more consideration to you fighting at a heavier weight? Is there a name that you would prefer to fight?
Right now I'm really focused on beating that Anderson Silva record. Like, I think it would be dope as hell to be like, Demetrious Johnson had 12 consecutive title defenses, and they're like. Right. And then they go look at some other stuff, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. But I just think it'd be dope to have, one of the most calm, chilled dude who grew up playing video games, didn't even care about being a champion, worked in a factory, became the most consecutive title defenses. And let's say that it doesn't happen. And let's say, I lose my next 2 fights, or I lose this fight or whatever. I'm just focused on building my brand, making sure after I'm done fighting in mixed martial arts that I am not broke. ESPN hasn't broke out a 30 to 30. We covered Demetrious Johnson's life story. This stat story is like, that's what's got me more focused, is making sure I do right by my career and using this platform to be successful after I'm done fighting. So. And
what will that be? A video game entrepreneur?
It might be. It might be. I might be streaming on Twitch. Or who knows? Maybe after I'm done fighting, my bills are paid, my house is paid, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna stream on Twitch all day and fucking just kick it in.
What does Destiny think of that?
She loves it. She loves it. I'm home with the kids. I wash the dishes. I'm doing my laundry. I'm helping around the house. I'm not just sitting there like, babe, get the door. Like I'm helping around the house. What wife wouldn't want their husband being home all the time with them? Like, I think it's an amazing idea. Seeing my kids grow up, watching their soccer game. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I still want to go around and do seminars. I have never done a seminar in my whole entire life yet.
Really?
Yeah, never have. There's no point. I'm focused on myself right now. When I'm ready to give back and go 110%, that's one of the reasons why, for me, coaching Ultimate Fighter, my weight class, I just couldn't do it because I'm basically coaching people to beat me. And I'm gonna give you my riddle. I'm like, okay, this is what's made me so successful. This is why I'm able to have 7 title defenses. And why am I gonna divulge that information to somebody who could, and my people are like, oh, you're a pussy, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, tough love. I put 10 years in learning the craft of mixed martial arts. I'm not just gonna give it away to some Joe Schmo. Not saying everybody out there is Joe Schmo, but I wouldn't mind, coaching maybe, middleweights or whatever. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's where my focus is now, I guess. Not the Ultimate Fighter, but just focusing on myself. Just taking care of Demetrious Johnson, because nobody else is going to take care of Demetrious Johnson better than Demetrious Johnson will take care of himself.
So just to be clear, I'm sorry, you weren't actually opposed to the concept of defending your title against a tough winner.
I never was. Never was. People took my first reaction of how tough was, and see, that's what I love people. They're like, when I read, so one of the things I do, after I read the interview, I love reading the comments, right? So one person goes, I love this fucking dude. Because the reason why is because he says Joseph should join it. His first reaction is have Joseph join it. Because Joseph has proven time and time that he's one of the best flyweights in the world. And throw him in the house with everybody else. Let's see who gets past him. He would probably come out and we would fight again. He earned the right to earn a title shot, right? Never said that I would never fight the winner of the Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
I just basically, one, the UFC didn't tell me anything about this. Two, a fan told me about it. So it's like if TMZ came to me and goes, hey, Demetrious Johnson, what's going on, man? Hey, what do you think about this? Like, what the fuck you mean? That's not true. That's never happened in the history of... So baby, people took that and ran with it and made that a spite of fear of me worried about fighting some dude off the house. Fuck, I said throw Joseph in the house. I said throw the best fighter in the UFC flyweight division, the number one ranked fighter in the flyweight division in the house, so he can earn his right to have a title shot. That means I have fear. Does it? Throw Dots in the house then again. I don't care. I just don't care. Like whether I go out and win or lose my fights, I just don't care. Like I just want. You see guys all the time. You know, people go out there and they lose. They still have an amazing career. They still have lots of money. I'm just focused on now. My mindset is to be the best I can and compete. And then after I'm done fighting, whether I win or lose, to where it's like, dude, yeah, you got title, but look how much fucking money I got. Look how much my brand is. That's what I'm starting to see. And I realized that when I saw Conor McGregor lost to Nate Diaz. I was like, he just lost, so what? He's still driving cars that spit fire. Granted, do I want to drive cars that spit fire? Not really. I just want to have my bills paid in my house. But it's not about it. He's proven it, and he even said, he goes, I don't give a fuck about this title. He goes, I just care about how fat the checks are. And I'm like, I look at my title, I'm like, cause you had a bad day. I was like, it's okay, we're still good.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, dude, it's about, you know, building your brand, making sure after you're done fighting, you know, you're good to go. And now I just want my kids to be taken care of, my wife, and if that, and people are like, oh, you don't care about fighting anymore. I was like, trust me, my friend, I am not miss one day of fucking training in the gym. I do not like to lose, but I don't get so wrapped up in people's drama. I just worry about me, and that's when you're like, you know, are you offensive? Do you feel, you know, are you offended by the UFC giving a newbie a shot? I'm like, no, if UFC wants to do that, that's fine. Like, the UFC has never come and goes, hey, we're thinking you're gonna fight this guy. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I think numbers are gonna be horrible. I think it's gonna be stupid. Nobody knows exactly who this person is. Blah, 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 blah. Never done that before. Where you've heard, you know, John Jones says, dude, I'm not fighting Lyoto again. Well, he says, I don't think it's a good fight. Last time we fought, the numbers were low. Like, my check wasn't as big. Never been that type of person. So.
But you say you don't worry too much about the fighting, but do you understand, like, you know, when you see Chris Weidman now, he is obsessed, possessed, can only think about Luke, and, you know, and that is his own focus in his life, and it's given him new drive and everything. But do you think that
what happens when he loses again?
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that's dangerous because you think there's too much emotion in there now?
I think it is because he's so invested. And you know what? I like both those guys, and I think him having his. I talked to one person and I said, dude, you might never reach the goal you want to reach, but I guarantee you probably the most wealthy, financially stable dude out of everybody. And he chuckled and he's like, yeah, whatever. And I just think with a guy getting so fixated on one thing, like I can beat this guy, and then when he loses, he's gonna be fucking devastated. I'm not saying he is gonna lose.
I was just gonna ask you, you think Luke's gonna get him again?
I love my boy Luke. Luke is a specimen, a man who can. One, he's super athletic. There's Russell Wilson athletic, and then there's Cam Newton athletic. Okay, and that's where I see it. And nothing against Chris Weidman, but if I'm like, Chris Weidman, here's a skateboard, you know, or Chris Weidman basketball, you know what I mean? Like, if you throw me a basketball, I'm like, what's good, homie? What's good, dog? You know, I'll take it to the hole and I'll get it, you know. If you have me water ski, kneeboard, I can kneeboard. If I need to wake, I can do it. I'm super athletic to where you give, you know, when I see Chris Weidman, or not Chris Weidman, when I see Luke Rocco, this motherfucker's surfing. And then he's also skateboarding. He's doing tricks on a skateboard. And then I see what he does in the gym with the high kicks, and his combos are good. He's moving, and he's a big athletic dude. I think, you know, it's just different. Not taking anything away from Chris. I think it's gonna be a sick fight. That's why I told UFC, I was like, I want to come to this fight. Like, I want to come to UFC 189 because I want to see this fight against there's two great athletes. But I think if Chris is dedicating his life to this, and then let's say he loses, what's next? You know, I don't. That's why for me, it's like I don't dedicate my life like this is the deal breaker of all deals or fights. For me, it's like, okay, it's another fight. Take on a Hiroshima, 10-0 Olympic gold medalist. Let's get it. Let's see what happens.
You know, speaking of 199, obviously Dominic and Uriah are going to be in there as well. I mean, are those? Is that a fight you watch closely? Because maybe one day you could have a super fight.
Maybe one day, but I'm not gonna watch. I'm gonna watch it closely as a fan perspective, not as a competitor. To where it's like I know what Dom brings. I fought him before. I mean, you can watch as much as you want, but none of them give you that exact feel to where you get in there. But yeah, I'm excited for that fight too.
After your loss to Dom, did you have any other kind of issue where you fixated on Dom?
I had when I first lost to Brad Pickett. That's where I had that. Because it was the first one ever, and I was like, you know, I thought I was invincible, whatever, and then I found out I wasn't, and then I'm like, fuck. And then I, went on the win streak, fought Miguel, Nick Pace, Demetrious Page, and all that stuff. Then I fought Dom, and then I lost, and I was like, okay, let's get back in the gym and get ready for the next one. And then the UFC called again, and I'm like, hey, why don't you fight Eddie Wineland? I was like, sweet, let's do it. Chicago. Then they called again, hey, we have a different idea. We're going to open a flyweight division. Sweet, sounds good. Like, if I lost, I'm like, all right, there you go, bud. Bye. So long, then. But now there's other organization. You have ONE FC. Look, nobody's talking about Ben Henderson. I saw a thing that says Ben Henderson is going to be the first person to ever hold belts in Bellator, WEC, UFC, and nobody's talking about it. And I was like, good for you, Ben. It's like, bravo. And I was like, well, I need to fucking watch that. I want to see it happen. I'm a huge fan of Ben Henderson. But there's, another example, Ben Henderson, him losing his belt, him being upfront about, you know what, it's about taking care of my family and making sure I can provide my kids. And I guess you can say I'm on that boat now because I have 2 kids and I have a wife and I have a house. I have nice cars. I have everything I can want. Now I'm just fighting to provide for that and to set records and stuff. But that's where the cream of the crop is. That's where my heart is. That's where I desire to. There's a lot of guys who are hitting. He's got a picture of me in his mantle. When I saw it, I was like, I need to send him a better picture. I think he needs a better updated picture of me, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Where Chrissy's like, I'm Luke Rocco, like, baby, shave your head, please. Shave your head to look at you, please. It's fine. That's what their heart desires, and that's what it is. For me, I'm fixated on being the best Demetrious Johnson I can be, and go out there and fight.
Would you like to get those 2 fights back now before you call it?
If I do, like this, but at the same time, I still lost. It's not like they're like, go, well, you got Brad Pickett, let me go there. Pickett, I'm sorry, you got to get this back. Johnson, there we go. I still lost, so it's, Pickett's doing his thing, and Dom's doing his thing, Dotson's doing his thing, Joseph's doing his thing, Ali's doing his thing, whatever he's doing, everybody's doing their own thing, and I'm doing my own thing too.
You talked about Benson Henderson winning all those titles.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a motivator for you? We talk about super fights for you.
Yeah.
How much would it mean to actually be able to fight a Dom or Uriah and win that 35 belt as well as that?
See, when you went there, I was thinking about pride. I was thinking about fighting Timmy around, like when it goes, Demetrious Johnson. I'm like, Demetrious Johnson here, da. Brass was like, all right, here we go. No, Judge, ready? Fight. It was like, ding, 10-minute round. Like, all right, fuck, we got 10 minutes. That was and fighting in like a legitimate tournament where it's like, hey, this is the tournament right here. We have 16 guys and the winner gets this belt. That was my before I even thought about UFC champion. That was the goal. Like, I would love to first month, January, Demetrious Johnson, round 1, pop, high kick, he knocks him out. And it goes, Demetrious Johnson, then it goes, 3 months later, second round, and it's like, he got rocked, he's down, he's getting up, armbar, he wins it, blah, blah, blah. And it goes, third round, this is semifinals, you gotta fight twice in one night. Then, I win that one, then it's like, then you gotta fight again. I don't know how the fuck they did that, but then I gotta fight again. That was my echelon. So, wherever you say that, that's where my head was. So that's still, hopefully one day, Rizin, who knows, Rizin will be like, hey, UFC, can we borrow that champion of yours? We would love to give him the opportunity to relive that dream. So,
how many fights are left in your contract?
I think there's 3 left. 3 left, yeah.
How many things like that are kind of on your bucket list of them? I mean, it's a journey, this
That's-
career. Like being able to fight in Japan or fight in Brazil or fight internationally. Like how many of those things would you have liked to, do you still feel like you need to check off?
You know what? That was it. That was the main one. I'm not gonna lie. That was the main one. Just the the dream, the pride setup, even the pride gloves. Like there was a time Matt had a big bag of like legitimate pride gloves, like the actual authentic ones, and I was like, dude, you need to give me one of those. He goes, you can win one. I was like, all right, if I beat this guy, I want that. He goes, sounds good. When I beat Kid Yamamoto, I was like, after I got to the cage, I was like, I get my pride gloves, bro. And he goes, you can have it. And when I came back to the gym, he goes, there you go. And I was like, ah. Then I lost them. Somebody stole them.
Oh.
Then I was like, hey, if I beat this guy, can I have another pride gloves? He goes, yep. Came back and I was like, da-da-da. Took them, put them in my safekeep because I envisioned myself, dreamed of myself like in a ring. And I grew up in my amateur career, I didn't fight in a cage, I fought in the ring. So I was so accustomed to the four corners to where my style was to track people down in the corner and then start working and unloading and my knees. And so I grew to love that style of fighting and in that ring. And I emphasizes myself being there, just raising my hand in front of all in the white ring, and just that whole concept of it, I fell in love with it. And so when you say top of my bucket list, it can never happen because it's gone. So that's something I've never told anybody, but now you guys know that. So that's something I was like, I just love. But hey, it's gone.
Demetrious, when you said, I agree with this, but you talked about bringing back knees, let's say knees on the ground, because I thought that actually is less brain damage, because when you have that kind of pitter-patter punches on the ground,
Yeah.
those are the ones that cause that long term.
That long term. It's just like boxing. When somebody gets dropped, it's like 6, 7, 8. Okay, you back up. Let's get brain damage more. Then they get out there and they start fighting again. He gets dropped again. And let's say the round ends. I think it's 3 drops. It's TKO. You're done.
Yeah.
And they go to the next round. He get dropped again, and then eventually the ref will step in. But yeah, I think the sooner the better you can end the fight when somebody's absolutely losing. Then it makes sense, you know. I know. I mean, don't get me wrong. When Herc Dean comes in the back, he goes, "Okay, you got to make sure." And I'm like, "Dude, like before I fight, that's how I was like, dude, if I get dropped, give me some fucking time. Give me time to recuperate myself." To where, when I'm watching it, I'm like, man, they should have stopped it. For me, I'm like, do you let that go? Because there's a lot on the line. I don't get a full paycheck when I lose. I want my full paycheck. So. If it was like, hey, don't worry about it, we're gonna pay you full paycheck, don't worry about it, I'm like, you stop that motherfucker as soon as possible, okay? if I'm getting work, like if I'm sitting there like that, stop that shit, I don't, but there's that scene where, every little extra helps, so.
Would you be up for that? Like just big show money and like not
Yeah.
so much on the
Yeah, I would.
second end, yeah.
Yeah. Every equal up to what it was. There was like, hey, we're gonna give you, $100,000 just to show the fight, and that's it. And then I was coming from back where it's like, can you give me 145 to show? Then you win, you get 65. Okay, I'm a gamble, go for that.
Yeah.
So, but if it was like, hey, don't worry about it, man. We're gonna give you 300 flat. You just go out there, fight your ass off. Health insurance is good. We'll take care of you. I'm sure you'll hear a lot of fighters be like, I like that a lot better because it doesn't put that added stress that I gotta win this round. I have to win this round or anything like that. It was like, I'm just going out there and fight, put on a great show. Everything will be taken care of. And I think you kind of saw a lot in Pride. You hear a lot of guys go out there and just fight. The next thing you know, they would, even though they will lose, they'll keep coming back. And then you see this too. They'll keep coming back and fighting. But they didn't care. It wasn't about, they're about putting on a great show, and that was it. And the Japanese crowd also loved that as well. Right. So.
Did you fight in Japan before? That never happened.
That was on the bucket list. But and it's not the same. Like it's not the same. I don't care if any of you guys say it's not the same. The setup they had there, the ring, all of it's totally different. So with UFC going back to Japan, it's awesome, but it's not the same.
It's just UFC in Japan. It's not.
It's not Dream or Pride in Japan. Or I mean, I haven't watched any of the Risen shows, so I don't have no idea what it's like. But they're in a ring, right?
Yeah.
And they're 5-5-5s.
Do they do 10? I don't know. I don't think they do 10-minute rounds. Yeah, or not.
And you guys can blame Matt, who got me in love with 10, because sometimes when we be sparring, I be getting ready for fights, Matt goes, all right, first round's 10 minutes, enjoy your partner. and he'll go beep. And sometimes I'll get mad, and it's a long fucking round. It's a long round. But I love it because so much happens. You see deterioration of somebody's gas tank. You see how much they really put into something. They see it becomes more of a chess match because it's like, okay, you look at the Nate Diaz and the Conor McGregor fight. Let's say that first round was 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Conor just blasting away for 10 minutes straight, Who knew how well Nate Diaz could recover from those shots? Maybe over time, the blood loss of that round, just the blood he was losing, and the shots over and over, his body may get up, but he gets that 1 minute break to recuperate. Sometimes when you take a break and you sit down and you relax, it almost can hurt you because your body's getting at a rest moment. It's like, now I gotta get back and go. So much can happen in that 10 minutes where it's like, okay, I'm gonna come out, be efficient, just move, see what's going on. Okay, we're at the 8-minute mark. Okay, let me give a little pepper. Okay, we're at the 4-minute mark. Okay, shit, I still got 4 minutes. I'm gonna pour it on him. You get a minute and a half rest, and it's like, okay, then we got 5-minute round. Then we got another 5 minute. Then you got another 5-minute round. So it still equals up to that, that 20 minutes or 25, but you still have that initial, that 10 minutes where it changes a lot of things in a fight.
That really is almost like a bucket list thing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Even before, because, and like I said, at the time, there was no one, the smallest weight class was 155 in UFC. Yeah. And so, in Dream, sometimes you had smaller, Bushido, you had smaller guys fighting. Right. Never had anyone really care about trying to fight in Shuto, but the Dream, and that's when I walked up, and then just the intro, the VR, they tell the stories. It goes, "Hurrah, Bribiano Fernandez." He goes, you got to do good things in your life, and it's almost like a movie. You're watching it, and it shows him in his past fights and the Japanese, and that's why I love Japan so much. And I was like, man, this is fucking dope. So, but yeah, so that was on the bucket list, man. That was one of them.
You remember Eddie Alvarez's fight in Dreams?
Yeah. I remember Gilbert Melendez when he showed up. He had this little jerry curl afro, and he was like, and Matt was like, dude, Matt was like, dude, he's tough because he would go like Gegard Musashi. When Matt saw Gegard Musashi begin, he was, dude, he's tough. He's good. And Matt was like, man, he's on his boxing, Chris. Jacare was in, Dream Pride, and Bibiano, Antonio Benuelos spot over there in the Dream tournament. He won the first one, lost the second one to Bibiano. So there's been guys who fight in my weight who, Joseph fought over in Dream before. So there's other guys who's got it, but I was still in my amateur career at that time to where Matt was like, nope, you're going to do this and this. That way when you make the leaps and bounds, you're 100% complete. I want you to do this and this and this. So it's just,
How did you first meet him?
I was training at a satellite gym of one of his, and I had no idea who Matt Hume was. Like, I want to tell you guys, I literally jumped in mixed martial arts just for the workout. I truly did. Like, I just went to the gym, and I was like, John Clave, damn, baby, pop, pop, pop. And then a guy, Reese Andy, who competed in the UFC, saw me. I knew him from my wrestling days in high school, and he goes, hey, you want to do mixed martial arts? So I was like, sure, whatever. I started taking classes, and Matt wasn't there. And then eventually, they're like, I trained for 3 months, and I'm like, hey, we have an amateur fight. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, sure. And then I signed up for an amateur fight at 135. And then Matt was sitting there, like Shao Kahn. I just need to bring that video and show you guys. And he sat there with a Pride shirt, and he was sitting there, and he would watch. And we would fight. And then after that, I'll leave. Then another fight got presented to me, and I was like, sure, I'll take it. And then I fought, and he was the same guy was sitting there again. And I'm like, all right, that's Shao Kahn, I guess. And then eventually, I started going up to Kirkland to train. And I'll go up there Saturdays, and I was spar Matt. And then we wouldn't talk much with spar. And then at this time, he was going to be fighting one of the Gracies. I think it was Hickson Gracie. He was possibly going to be fighting him. So he was still training. And then eventually, his ACL got torn or whatever. And I kept coming up there. And then Matt was like, hey, there's a jiu-jitsu tournament. You should go do it. And I'm like, okay. I'll go sign up for a jiu-jitsu tournament, which would be me, Destiny be in the stands, and I'll go out there and grapple, wrestle, and I'll submit the guy, and I'll call him after I'm done. And I'm like, hey, I took first place, submitted everybody. He goes, okay, good. And then I'll go home, and then eventually things start getting more, because you got to think, Matt Hume goes through, everybody, whoever has a gym, they have thousands and thousands of people coming there like, hey, I want the next best thing. But I think maybe for him, I was intrigued because I didn't even care about that. I was just like, so explain it to me again. How's that go? And show me. Yeah. Teach me. to where then eventually it was like, you know, even after the last Ian McCall fight in Australia, he was like, okay, you're fucking done, bro. He goes, whatever you do now, I am overseeing everything. And I was like, all right, whatever, sounds good. And so that time I met him, like, they were like, you know who that is, right? I was like, no. And I knew he was Matt Hume. But he goes, here's his video, watch his video of him fighting Eric Paulson. I'm like, fuck, that's you. And then you see how he's well known, and then Robbie Lawless came out trained, Spencer Fisher came out trained, Chris Stevens came out trained, and he's worked every single one of them.
Yeah.
Even Rich Franklin. When Rich Franklin was on the top of his prime, Matt was like, get up, just working him. And I'm like, you, my friend, are my, like, and that's how I believe, like, you should have somebody who's going to whoop you. Right. And who can do everything. And so that's why I've, you know.
That's cool.
That's how I met Matt Hume.
That's cool.
Games I used to watch play, like Mega Man X, Chrono Trigger, I mean, you name it, people are playing it. Like Duck Hunt, people just play it. And so I was like, man, this is pretty dope. I was like, when would you see somebody play Legend of like Gaia? And I was like, I haven't heard that game from PlayStation 1, 1995. And so I would find it and I'd watch them. And then eventually, when I started playing my games, I was like, oh, I can stream. I was like, I'm gonna show people my skill set, my skills on Final Fantasy 14 Where Reborn. Right. So I'm like, oh yeah, he knows what I'm wrong. I'm like, pop, 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 moving angles and all that stuff. And so then a person came in there, one person came in, and they started talking to me, and it was an MMA fan. Right. He goes, oh, what's up, man? And I was like, I'm just chilling, dog. And because usually I'm not very accessible to the fans when I'm not getting ready for my fight. Like, I come up, I show up, I fight, and I disappear like a smoke. And so I started talking, and the next thing you know, I had 5 people, and I had 15 people, and then I was
they're
just
all texting their friends on the side and calling, hey, you guys
maybe
gotta jump in
possibly,
here.
yeah. Or then I'm also channeled. I'm also in that directory, to where a directory means there's a whole bunch of, you know, if I go to mixed martial arts information, you know, and
It'll say all the players.
It would say all the people in just who broadcast mixed martial arts. And so I was like, okay, this is fine, you know, and I'll sit there, stay up late and play games and just hang out with the fans. Yeah. Then Twitch reached out to me and goes, hey, you know, would you like to, you know, take this more serious and all that stuff? I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, we'll tell you all that stuff you need to be required. And so I did. And I got all my rigs and all that
because I remember seeing something on your Instagram, and I was like, I don't wait. I'm like, look at this setup, because he's a computer guy. And I was like, DJ got hooked up over here.
I want to know. I purchased every single thing with my own money. Okay, I purchased every single thing.
But it looked pretty serious.
Not one person gave me not one dime. That's in my studio. I didn't know what to purchase because I'm not a computer guy. Like, I'll go to Best. I'm that idiot who go to Best Buy. Like, what is your most expensive machine? I'll buy it. And then it better run everything I need to run. To where I got hooked up with Origin PC, and they're like, hey, what do you want to do? This is what I want to do. I don't want to upgrade a machine, because as you know, with PC parts, they'll come out a new graphics card tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, you want to play this new game, you have the graphics card. And that's why I hate about PC, because you buy PS4 or Xbox One, it's going to play every single one of those games because the game is geared towards the operating system. So I told them what I wanted. They built it for me. I paid them, and then they shipped it, and I got it.
Nice. Quentin does it too a lot.
He does it too. Yeah. So me and him
But he punked me because he called me up one day, and we're just chit-chatting. And then I forget, it was like 15 minutes later. Yeah. He's like, oh, by the way, I should tell you. It's like, oh my God, Quentin. I was like, what did I just say? Because I think I was busting on somebody. I'm sure I was. Yeah. If you're talking to Quentin, you're busting on somebody. Yes. Right? And then I was like, oh no. Yeah. But he just started cracking up. I was like, oh, I'm going to get you, man. Because I had no idea. That's dangerous.
What he did is, so once he started streaming, I got into it before he did, and we were like right behind each other. And then, what I realized is that it wasn't just about watching people play video games. It was about interacting with the broadcaster. Yeah. So, I mean, if you go on my phone, there's certain people I like to watch. I show these guys a man who's 71 years old, and he plays the piano for people. And you can go in there and say, hey, I want you to play Space Jam. And if I'm not a subscriber, I have to donate $5, and he'll play for me. Really? And I went in there the other day, and I like to watch art. That's one of my envious. I wish I can draw like art. Yeah. I'll go in there and I'll watch people draw art. And cool. I'm more entertained by that than watching television. There's guys, I met people out in the world on Twitch where it's like, dude, I don't have DirecTV. I don't have Comcast. I have nothing. I have Twitch.
Yeah.
I come home from work and I turn on Twitch and I watch it all day. And I'm like, and it makes sense. When I come home from the gym, I don't want to listen to Kanye.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to anybody. I turn on Twitch and listen to one of my broadcasters and like get his feedback on when he thinks in the game.
Well,